Hello and welcome to another episode of Witchy Business. Today we thought that we've been talking recently about our mission for our business, for the world, for bigger level thinking, big picture thinking. And we thought it would be nice to share our missions, and there's a lot of crossover in really what we stand for. And although we do it in different ways, we use different tools, but really what we stand for is coming from a very similar place. And as business owners, for anyone who's listening who runs your own business, connecting with your mission on a regular basis, we've always found it to be really beneficial to kind of keep you motivated, to keep you on track, so that all of your decisions, all of your actions come from that place.
Definitely. And even if you are like employed, just in life in general, I feel like having your mission, your vision, and your values, which is like, the first three things you do in a business plan, but having that personally, I find really helps you make decisions when you're presented with different choices. When one could make more sense than another, or be the safer decision to make, or the most logical, really knowing that long-term vision of yours can help you know what to do. So
yeah, and that's a really good point, because I think when you're in a job, if the job, whether that's the work or the company or the clients that you're working for, isn't aligned with your mission, then that's where there's the disconnect and the kind of the feeling of something being missing. And I think that's a really good point to make, because I definitely have been in jobs where it wasn't aligned with my mission, and I felt like there was something, it was like a stuckness and a kind of like loss of identity piece there. So
I was thinking about this morning, because obviously we knew we were going to record, so it was on my mind. And I remembered how one day I did 2 interviews for 2 jobs, and I ended up taking like the less well-paid one, because the first one was for Coca-Cola. And I was just like, I always said that I'd study marketing, but not for big brands that I didn't believe in, like Coca-Cola. And then suddenly I, stream of events, like, it's a good job, it was paying well, the missions were interesting, and like all of that. But then I was like, who am I using my brain for? And I don't want to do that. So to me, an example of, well, that really doesn't align with my vision, my values, so it's a no from me.
That's really amazing as well, because in terms of marketing, I mean, Coca-Cola is always talked about, at uni and at school, in kind of marketing lessons. It's always like the goal,
The goal is always Nike and Coca-Cola, like, they're the big ones. But I just couldn't do it.
That's amazing. And if you had, then you would have been feeling disconnected and inauthentic. So so should we share?
What's yours?
So my mission is really all around using the power of creativity to reconnect, rediscover your authentic self, and really tap into your full potential.
And you do that so well. Like, constantly reminds me to tap into my kind of creativity, and to slow down, and to know how, like, find ways that expressing myself comes more naturally. And this is where this podcast comes from, because for us it's speaking, so that makes sense. How did you like come to that? Because we don't just wake up one day and decide, that's my mission.
Yeah. It's been a long process, and I think and maybe you can relate to some of this, but it's always been there, but it's not in so many words. It's been a journey of kind of working with different clients on different things, and my own journey of creative exploration, and actually most recently learning more about my human design chart and my astrology chart. And it's so funny because I have so much creativity channels, and my North Node is all about using creativity to overcome obstacles. And when I learned that, it just made so much sense to me, because creativity is really tapping, and I know we've spoken about this before on the podcast, but it's all about really tapping into who you are, to your authentic core, because we're all creative beings. So we all have that creativity, and we're always creating. But in addition to that, creativity, when I say creativity to overcome obstacles, it's using creativity for healing, for expression, for building confidence, for going inwards, for connecting deeper with yourself, for I could go on, and then kind of outwardly thinking about problem solving. And when you're feeling a bit stuck, it's using creativity and tapping into your creativity in order to overcome that and to move forwards and find solutions and all of that. And so my journey has been very much that. It's been like, oh, I'm stuck. And then I work on a creative project and I'm like, oh, I'm not stuck. Or like, oh, I know myself a bit more now, and it's kind of, it was just taking those baby steps that I didn't really realize was all about, because I've never actually really considered myself to be a creative, even though I am, we all are. And
but also like in the, how traditionally people would view creativity as like art, and you're a designer and you were a creative.
Yeah. I know it's so funny.
The job title was actually like creative.
Yeah, and like the way my brain works is it's so creative. Like I realize that now. Like if someone comes to me with I don't know, a question or a problem or something, I'm like ping ping ping, like here are all of the creative ideas. But I guess a part of it was like not really taking myself seriously as a creative. And now I realize that creativity is so much more than we could ever imagine. It's literally in everything we do. And so
it's a way of thinking and a way of being.
So really spreading creativity, using it as a tool, but also connecting with your creativity. And I just saw this video actually on Instagram that our friend Kate shared about Andrew Garfield sharing about his mom and how he has this grief around her death. I don't know if you've seen it, but and he talks about how creativity has been so healing for him, and how he uses music particularly to leave the world. He says that his mum knew the power of creativity, and now he uses that to leave the world in a better place than they came into it. And I just got goosebumps as I watched it, because that really, really resonated. It's like, if we can use the power of our own creativity to create positive change for ourselves, for the people around us, for the planet, and then leave the world in a better place than we came into it through creativity, then I'm like, my work here is done.
Yeah. And like, I have two questions of, yeah, I asked like what brought you to it. So now it's more, what did it bring you? Like what made it so, you know, for it to stick, to be like, this is really what I want to dedicate my life to, I guess. Because when it's your mission, to me a mission is more like associated to an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like creativity is really like your wide vision of everything you do is linked to the way you see the world. That's your lens through
Yeah.
creativity. What did it bring you? Like, what did shifting your mindset and really thinking about creativity in that way, like, allow you in your life for it to stick so much that you then dedicate yourself to it and want to share it so much with people?
Mm. Good question. I would say my vision is really ultimately to create a world where people are empowered to live authentically and freely. And I do that through creativity. But what creativity gave me was authenticity and freedom, because through that I have created, use of the word creation, I have created a life of freedom for myself, and I have tapped into who I am authentically at the core. And don't get me wrong, that's still a journey, it's still a process, you know, peeling back the layers as as we're all doing, but connecting authentically with who I am and then creating that freedom, that's what it gave me. Through, yeah, I mean, a couple of examples of that I guess probably helps to, for more of like a tangible idea, but it's business, creating businesses and creating in general, being able to journal and write and dance and all of these things that allow me to express myself and have confidence in myself, and yeah, really create that freedom within my, not just in my life, but like within my mind, within my body. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've loved seeing it over the past few years,
Mm.
you know, because we've only known each other for, well, it's been almost 3 years, but
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
because
really seen that. Like, I think I met you as you were like, you know, really tapping into it, and I've really seen that evolution.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's really nice because also in human design, I'm a 2/4 profile line. And so as a that's one of the hardest profile lines to know what you're good at and to really see yourself. We, especially as a projector as well, projectors see themselves through others seeing them. And so I've really had to lean into what people are calling me out for, what people are coming to me for, what I'm helping people with. And it's, yeah, it has really been a journey of like, oh, the thing here that's linking everything together is creativity. And yeah, and I use creative practices. I use embodiment practices like breath work, meditation, visualization, which again is so creative. And then really creative expression, whatever that looks like, you know, to the individual. And yeah, it suddenly just clicked one day, like this is all coming from that place of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, it tends to
Yeah.
work that way, doesn't it? It's like really slowly it comes in, and then like all at once it just clicks, and you're like, yeah, this is it. This is my, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
that's my vision, that's my mission, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I think because I've been so resistant, actually, in all honesty, to fully embrace creativity, because I work with a lot of people who have full-time jobs, and so they're kind of like in their career, but this is exactly where, like, I'm literally telling my life story as well. It's like in a career, not seeing myself as a creative. And so I thought like the term creativity might be quite confusing, because it's not something that everyone resonates with, unless you're like openly a creative or a business owner, knowing that, you know, creativity is important to your growth. Then it's like, sometimes what I used to feel like that would be like a block. No, I'm not creative, you know. But now I know how to kind of speak about it. I know the power in it, and that really helps me to kind of communicate that creativity is for everyone. It's not just like painting, it's not just illustrating. It's so much more than that, and that actually is really valuable for everyone. And so again, that in turn makes it feel like, who am I speaking to? Who am I working with? But it's very much like, I think, you know, both of us and probably most people listening, we attract the people that want to work with us based on who we are and our energy. And so sometimes that
there's that meme going around recently that's like, the more you are, the more like the people that you're going to attract are going to be, because you're going to attract them as who you actually are. Like, that's the whole point of like authenticity. But I think that's a whole different conversation, because it's not as simple as we like to try and make it. But
and that's why I don't call myself a creative coach, because I kind of like that term, but also it's not like inclusive of everything that I do. So it's something that it's you know, it's
and I think in what you said, like, something that's interesting too is just because like people don't think they're creative in their jobs, or like that their career isn't in a creative field. They think that they're not creative, and you're like, how sad is it that our whole life is our work?
You're so right. Because and coming back to the mission, you know, it's not actually necessarily about creativity. It's about rediscovering yourself and tapping into who you are, and that's for everyone.
That definitely is for everyone.
So what's your mission, and how is that? Share, if you can share your mission, and then we can talk about the crossover, because I just love that.
So I'll start with my vision, because that's really what is in the background of everything that I do, and in essence who I am, but also like who I'm working towards embodying more. Actually, just saying that, I'm like, isn't it funny that like being who we really are, so going back to that authenticity, it's like we're born with who we essentially really are. I feel like I'm going on a full tangent here. And then we add all those layers of what we learn, and, you know, everything. Society, education, culture, add on, you know, like responses and ways of being that we decide will be better, so we can get more of what we think we want, and all of that. And isn't it interesting that truly being who we really are is a conscious effort, and something that we work towards. And that's like your work. Like, it's like to truly be who personally, to truly be who I am, I'm working with 2 coaches, possibly 3. But yeah, it's like a coming back to who we are has to be a conscious effort to counteract all the forces that are put onto us that mold us to be not so purely who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who I'm working towards embodying more, and my like big vision, which as time, well, it used to feel really scary because it was like, you know, so much bigger than me. But I think that's the point of a vision, is that it should be bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not something to ever get to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like really what fuels everything that I do. And it's for people to come back to real love, like that deep down inside love, because where there's love, there's no shame, there's no hate, there's none of all of that. And I think, if coming back to your creation, if we create and we live and we are from that place of pure love, and everything we do is really magic. And, you know, going way too big, but I think it would be a really beautiful world if that was a place that we all came from.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were talking about it, reading a really stupid post on Instagram and sharing like how obviously it didn't come from love, how the message in a way was true, but it wasn't infused in love. That wasn't the place that it was created from. And I think for us to be able to tap into that place, to create, to speak, to share, to be human beings, we have to find it within ourselves, and we have to reconnect to it. So that's my big vision. And my mission is for people to feel like they can do it, to really empower people to know how to do that through education, coaching, embodiment, like really from all perspectives, for them to know with their like body, mind, soul, that this is possible for them. For that to, like, you know, if you experience it once, even for a glimmer of time, like a little moment that you can't hold on to, but your whole being has experienced that pure love, you know that like it's there, and it just becomes like your guiding light of where you go. So yeah, and I find it hard sometimes because I feel like it's not that tangible, but it's so universal, and I believe in it so much that even if I try to talk about something else, that's what I always come back to. So, you know,
Yeah. I think the tangible is it's I often struggle with, like, I mean, what we do, every session looks different, every client looks different. And so, yeah, there is an element of like, obviously you have the tangible, but you also have the emotional side of it as well, which it is, you know, it's like
this my jam.
Yeah, and there's so much to it. But I'd love to hear your experience with that and your journey with that. How did you arrive at this point?
Really, like, I want to say through maturation work, because it's with that I really got that opportunity to sit down and actually vocalize it for the first time. But before that, I mean, I've been doing work on myself, like, different modalities and stuff since I was 15, so almost 20 years. And I feel like deep down that's always what I was looking for. And with maturation work, I feel like what happened was everything like aligned. It wasn't just spiritual work, it wasn't just mental like understanding, it wasn't just embodiment work, it's everything together. And it just like brought all the pieces together within me. And really, when I think about it, it's reconnecting to the very little me, because I think that was what she was there for as well. Like I really feel like that's why I'm here, that's why I came. That's why I came on this planet for, was that. And those moments where I feel like I'm more truly authentically myself, that's also what people share that they feel around me. So yeah, now it's just a matter of embodying it even more. And that's where the support comes in. That's where it becomes like a conscious choice and something to work towards. Because as much as it's a coming back to who I've always been, it's also an unlearning of everything that I've learned. Not everything, but a fair amount. So yeah.
Yeah. And I've loved watching your journey, and I always love hearing your perspective on things, and just speaking to the maturation a little bit more. I've experienced that myself through my coach, and I know how important this work is and how valuable it is, and I just love hearing you speak about it. And I think it's so important and so needed. And like everything you're creating, I'm like, oh, I just can't wait for it, because it's gonna be amazing.
Thank you. I love that I've been able to share this with you, and that now you're on the train.
Yeah.
I've indoctrinated you too. But I love it.
It's coming.
I just, sometimes it feels maybe a little bit like cultish, like it's just like everything.
Yeah.
But I chose to train in it because I worked in it for years before I actually, trained to be a maturation coach. And it's because, it's that alignment of the mental, the physical, like we call it body mind work. And it truly is. And there's that whole side of it. And this is where the nerd in me comes out. It's like that whole ontological inquiry, which is like a metaphysical approach to philosophy and understanding the human psyche, of the way we ask questions. That just blows my mind every time, the whole like the fact that our reality is created from our perceived reality is created from our past experiences. When you start really observing that from that metaphysical standpoint, you're just like, all these different realities exist at the same time, and it's a matter of changing your perspective and where you're being from, that allows you to step into a new way of being and a new reality of what your life looks and feels like. And that is the bit that just and I think it really speaks to me because deep down I've always been interested by the human psyche, and I don't think it's a coincidence that I studied marketing, because what I loved in it was that part where you have to understand what makes people tick, because that's what makes them purchase something.
Yeah.
It might seem a little bit, but it is what it is, like that.
Yeah, and it's basic form.
It's the basic thing. And I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast already, but the first like proper marketing campaign that was ever created was, well, when I say this, like consciously thought about as a strategy, was by Freud's nephew, based on his psychological findings of like what makes humans feel like they have a lack in their life. Because essentially marketing is creating a lack that isn't intrinsically there and then filling it with a service or a product. Well, that's my definition of marketing. Like that's what I used to teach my students is, deep down, that's what you're doing when you're doing marketing and communicating about something, is creating a lack that isn't intrinsically there. Like you don't wake up in the morning in your most vulnerable state going, I absolutely need a pink top because today's the launch day of the Barbie movie. But marketing makes you feel that.
Yeah.
And then by some miracle, there is a product and a service to come and fill that void. And I always loved that about marketing, like that understanding of the human mind and how we functions as beings. And now it's just applying it to something that is a little bit more helpful to the world, I believe.
Yeah. That's so interesting about the first consciously. I'd love to know what the campaign was.
So it was for cigarettes. And it was during the suffragettes movement, and at the time, cigarettes were only smoked by men because it looked like a phallic symbol, and so women wouldn't do it because it was seen as vulgar. So the phallic symbol, then you start seeing where Freud comes into this, because he associated everything with sex. So so then they gave free cigarettes to the suffragettes during their big march, and then they were at the front of the line smoking cigarettes. So cigarettes became a sign of female emancipation.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
I can't remember where I learned this, and like I might be regurgitating something that's completely false, but I remember reading about this when I was, prepping lessons back when I taught marketing, and I was just like, this is so cool and makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It is around that time, like the early 50s, that in the States, like, Mad Men style advertising and marketing companies existing. And
I love
first
Mad Men.
marketing pieces were all towards like women in the household, like for household products up and all of that.
I love in Mad Men how they use real campaigns, like not all the time, but some of them are real campaigns. So cool. I was going to say something.
So it's
marketing,
all, like linked to the human, how it all works. And
because I feel like recently there's been a shift in marketing, particularly in the kind of conscious spiritual entrepreneurship industry, in terms of it's not, I mean, I know I've been on the receiving end of the kind of like bro marketing coaching salesy things, sales calls, but now I'm seeing a lot more of like, it's still focusing on a lack, you could say, like, you're lacking this, but more in an empowering way. And I guess a good way of demonstrating that is with fitness. So there's a lot more personal trainers and fitness influencers who speak to the kind of empowerment, strong confidence side of exercise and fitness and nutrition versus like, you need to lose
X amount of weight. But is that really authentic, or is it just another way to spin something so they can sell it to you? Because you know, like, I think ultimately the demarketing is like, you know, like that whole like de-influencing movement that there is at the moment. And just going back to nature, and like, I'm not saying that marketing's like intrinsically bad. I think we just have to be aware of how it's used on us. And you know, like, that was my first thing that I would do with my students, was for the first like 10 days, I want you to notice every time that you're being marketed to. And all of them would say, at the start, we only see the ads and the obvious like marketing campaigns. And then we start seeing like how infused it is in everything that we're shown.
Yeah, I guess like coming obviously both of us from a background in marketing, we are aware of that. But I guess I mean like marketing as it relates to your vision and your mission. If your vision is to see a world where people are more empowered and confident with their body image, you know, then your marketing relates to that. Like, yes, I understand what you're saying. You're still selling, you're still marketing. In the same way that when we're marketing something,
absolutely.
It's, you know, we are selling something, but it's coming from a place of like, we want you to feel love. We want you to feel your authentic self. And like, yes, that's marketing, but also we really want that. So it's coming from a place of
that's it. It's like discerning the authenticity behind it, of which is not easy.
But I guess that's what you're saying as well. It's like what place you're coming from. Like when you talk about like the, you know, the different perspectives and the different versions, it's like, what place are you coming from?
Really, because I think I've become a bit too cynical of seeing you know, too many people being like, we'll just change the way we speak and we'll change our messaging, but ultimately they're still coming from the same place. And that's the difference. But you can discern that, you know, ultimately you just have to trust your witchy senses and the tingles and stuff. So
and I think picking up on what you were saying about like how we are doing so much work to come back to who we truly are. There's so many more, and this maybe is definitely like the bubble that we're in, you know, but I see us included and so many of our friends, so many other people in this space are doing this work to come back to themselves, and therefore they are then spreading that. It's like a ripple effect, and not just to the friends and the family, but also to children. So it's like we are creating this new paradigm, this new shift, this new generation of hopefully children that don't need to do all this work and spend all this money to come back to themselves because they grow up, you know.
Maybe not as much, but and again, like, I might be a little bit like cynical, but I think there'll always be layers that that are put upon us. It's just how toxic those layers are, or how helpful they are, and just like how difficult it is to outgrow them.
And don't get me wrong, if I feel like investing in myself and doing this work is one of the most empowering, courageous things that anyone can do. And I really enjoy the process, like as much as sometimes I don't enjoy the process, you know, like I know that's a big statement, but it's like, of course it's ups and downs, but I really like, I guess it's similar to what you're saying about understanding how people work. I really enjoy that too. And I really enjoy understanding how I work. And so yeah, it's like this constant exploration.
Yeah. It's like I feel like working with a maturation coach is having like an exploration guide into yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I've used that again.
Yeah, do.
An exploration guide. Yeah.
Your new marketing strategy.
Had it here first. This is the packaging. And it really does feel that way. And sometimes, like, we laugh about it of like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. And we spoke about this a couple of episodes ago. But I'm just loving what I'm discovering in it. So no matter how uncomfortable it is, it's like, when you go on a hike, like, you don't love every step that you're taking. Don't lie, but you love the view.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a trip. And I mean, we always say it's such a ride. And I love that we're on it together and that you've joined the train, because there is a language to maturation. There's a different kind of perception about life. And I remember not so long ago you told me, you were like, I understand why you didn't work the whole year you trained, because you can't do everything. And I was like, yep, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it is intense. Yeah. And, even just doing the work on ourselves makes us able to show up even more
100%.
and support our clients. And, I really feel like this is part of being a conscious business owner as well. It is, I guess, again, going back into like, what is the place that you are showing up from?
Yeah. It's part of the integrity of holding space for people. And I'm sure that the people you're working with and your clients and people who attend your workshops, if they had worked with you like a year ago, they can feel the shift in the space that you are. And like that ability to speak about authenticity from a place of so much authenticity is also what makes you so good at what you do.
Yeah. And I actually notice it with, I notice that shift in the kind of types of clients and types of people that I work with. And it's really interesting. It's like a complete energetic shift.
Yes. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I'd love to know, we should put in the show notes on Spotify where you can put the question. We'll put, what's your mission?
I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah. Take notes. We'll put, what's your mission? I'd love to hear, for anyone listening, what your mission is, because I think there's so much crossover in what we are, in what we stand for, in our vision. Maybe we'll put like, what's your vision? What's your mission? And and then maybe speak to that a little bit more, because ultimately what we want is very similar. Well, essentially it's the same when you break it down. And just the ways in which we do it. And we've seen that as well from the guests that we've had on our podcast. Again, it's coming from a very similar place, but just the tools in which they do what they do is different. And it's so incredible.
I feel like we're all working towards bringing people back to their true selves. And it's different modalities, different ways of guiding people through that. And I don't think one is better than another. I mean, I could speak for 5 million years about how incredible maturation work is, but that's because that's the work that I do. And that's what, but it's not going to be the only thing that I do. I'll continue to train and learn different things. It's just at the moment, it's my jam. But when we spoke to Kate, and that was all about nature and coming back to nature, and and Sarah, like, you know, peeling back the layers of being a good girl, like that's that deconditioning that we spoke about. And when we speak to Belinda, and she uses sound and meditation and astrology, they're like maps and guides to take you there. Inez was the same thing, you know, with human design and astrology and shamanic healing. And now I'm really scared that I'm forgetting some guests that we might on the pod, because I've started listing all of them. But yeah, we are all, I mean, that's why we're friends with them, and they're all part of our big circle of people in common that we somehow met in very different spaces. And yeah, I love feeling that kind of like web, you know, that we're all like part of and creating, that people can lean back into, knowing that there's a lot of us out there who are there to hold space for you.
Oh, well, that feels like a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, and I'm sure this might fall into a part 2 kind of thing. So
yeah, and thanks for everyone.
Thanks. I want to add that, like, for a long time, I found my vision too scary, like too big, you know. I felt like overwhelmed by it, by how am I ever going to get there, and reframing it in that like really long-term vision, that, I mean, it's called a vision, that it's not somewhere to get to, it's a place to come from, and something that infuses everything that you do, really helped me to use it as a guiding light rather than something that I need to get to. And with the mission, it can change. And I feel like that's really important, because we hold on to something saying, oh, but I told like even just one person about it, and now they're going to think that I'm a fraud, or, you know, I was wrong, or different people will attach a different meaning to changing your mind. But it's healthy. It's a good thing. It means you're growing. Like, that's how I see it. It means you're evolving, you're growing, and you're not just staying stuck where you've always been. So if your mission changes, your mission changes. And like, I feel, you know, step into it like boldly. Like, if it means like you change your Insta bio and you change your welcome page on your website, then go do it. If it means just staying in the same job but like looking at things differently, if it means taking up a new hobby, if it means like starting to read new books, like something really small, you know, of like, just do it. Because if your aim is also to come back truly to yourself, there's layers to that, and things change as the layers come off. So yeah, your mission can change, and your vision is your guiding light, not somewhere to get to. And I just wanted to encourage people by sharing that. So I hope that is helpful. And thank you for listening always.
I love that. I love all of that. Yeah, you're so right. And I guess just to add to that, vision, a guiding light, I love that way of looking at it, because again, it's just a way to check that you're in alignment as well. Like, I know for me, I always have so many ideas of things that I want to create, and just having that as like a check-in, like, is this aligned? Is it not? And like, it's okay if it's not, maybe there's another way that you want to do it, but just having that makes it come from this like same place.
And also, if you feel like your vision isn't big enough anymore or needs to change because it's not aligned to you anymore, you don't have to align to your vision.
Yes.
Always. Like, your vision can also shift. But I think an interesting thing that would be to try and think back to all the times that you've thought about your personal vision and see like the commonalities between them, or what you've been peeling back in there, and just like encouraging you to have a vision that's even bigger than, encompasses even more. Like, it doesn't have to be so precise. It can be something that's really wide and broad, that everything that interests you like fits into. And maybe that might be a future episode of ours where we like properly guide you through setting your vision, your mission, and all of that. That could be really fun. So let us know if that's something you want us to do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like what it is, how to do it, how to get started. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for giving us a space where we can both express ourselves really authentically. Yeah. We'll see you next week.